And you think about that end statement there, it's just stuff. But if you suffer and have gone through 11 treatments like I have and was a chronic relapser, it's that stuff that gets me high. It's that stuff that I don't know how to process. It's that stuff that I don't know how to feel about. And if I do feel a certain way about something regarding that stuff, it's usually not accurate. And at the end of the day, I've learned, as the big book will teach us, that a resentment is the #1 offender. That's what AA teaches us. And for those of us who are visibly angry, that's one thing. But the quiet ones that are really peed off, those are the ones you really got to watch for. And I've been both of those people. So that stuff is why we're here. We're not here because of alcohol. We're not here because of heroin, cocaine, methamphetamines, benzos. We're not here because we spent too much time in the casino or the strip club or on the internet surfing pornography. We're here because we don't know how to deal with that stuff. And that stuff makes us so uncomfortable in our own skin that we come to find the only way we can escape that stuff is by running in our addiction. And we find that the addiction is not the solution. And that's why we need to know the steps, and we need to admit that we're powerless over our addiction in our lives that become unmanageable. We have to come to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity in regards to this stuff. We have to make a decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understand Him so we can get help with this stuff. Some of us are holding on to stuff from when we were 3 years old, 5 years old, 7 years old, 10 years old. We haven't let go of the stuff, and that's the whole purpose of making a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. How can we deal with this stuff? We get sober and the stuff is still here. And we thought our problem was drugs, but the stuff is still here. And then we process it, we write it down, and then we admit to ourselves, to another human being and God, the exact natures of our wrong. And the wrong is this, that we don't know how to process this stuff. And then we begin to identify this stuff through a piece of paper and a confession. And then we look at it for what it is, and it really isn't as powerful as it appears to be. And we ask God to remove, and we become entirely ready to have God remove this stuff. Because this stuff really feeds into our character defects. We're not people of character. We lie, we manipulate, we take shortcuts. We get easily offended. We quit. We don't process. We hold resentments. We're full of fear, but we pretend that we're overly confident. We're afraid of our own shadow. And then this stuff, we humbly ask God to remove the shortcomings, the stuff. And then we take a look at the stuff on a list, and we look at what this stuff has done to us, and we write down, because of this stuff and because of the decisions we made, we harmed a lot of people. And we write down the effect of this stuff through an amends, and then we have the courage, because this stuff is being targeted, and we identify it, and we go and we make that a direct amends, and we don't blame the stuff. We take personal responsibility because we didn't take action on how to deal with the stuff. We don't blame our childhood. We don't blame the alcohol. We say we did it. We own it, so we can disown it. And then, because all this stuff is finally being talked about and processed, we're able now to say when this stuff comes back, it's not if it comes back, when it comes back. We take an inventory, and we say the stuff's back. And we promptly admitted that this stuff is making me say things I wish I wouldn't have said. It's making me feel things that I wish I wouldn't feel. It's making me hold on to things that I wish I could let go. And then when we do that on a daily, as the big book says, a reprieve contingent on our spiritual condition, we're able then and only then to sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for the knowledge of His will and the power to carry that out. And then and only then are you able to possibly have a spiritual awakening as a result of looking at this stuff. Letting go of this stuff. And you can't carry a message with this stuff. The message is polluted. The message is convoluted. It's only by processing and letting go of this stuff with the power of God that you're able to carry a message of recovery. That you're able to practice these principles in all your affairs. If you've got all this stuff, you're not going to live by principle. You're going to live by feelings. You'll act one way in the AA meeting, another way at work, another way with your old girl, another way with your kids. You won't even know who you are. And the reason why you don't know who you are, because you don't know whose you are. Lord, I thank you for another day above ground and out of prison. Lord, I thank you for limited sleep. I ask that you protect my voice. It's been a long week and it's only Tuesday. But Lord, I will always stand up for the things that you were calling me to do, because I will never forget where I came from. I will never forget what it felt like to just suffer daily, to get one more hit of something that was killing me. Forgive me for not taking my life seriously. But thank you for still never giving up on me. And Lord, I ask that you give me the words to say tonight that maybe change one life. Hopefully it's mine. Because tonight I will give you my best. And when I fail miserably, I know it's good enough for you. In your name we pray, amen. I was thinking today about something that changed my life many, many years ago. And it didn't change my life immediately. And that's why you got to really know the purpose of a seed. When I said to you earlier that I have a brief window of the privilege of knowing all of you in your life, that I'm going to tell you the truth. But sometimes when those seeds of knowledge and truth are spoken over you and to you, they don't take hold right away. But later on in life, if you don't quit, they'll come to pass if you're lucky enough to still be alive. And the reason why I bring that up is there was a woman. I was at New Beginnings Treatment Center, and at that time, my wife at the time was still trying to work with me after multiple relapses, multiple treatments, multiple MIA missions, not knowing where I was. She had 2 babies at home. And I'll never forget, at this particular time, her family had had enough. Now, previous family sessions at Hazelden that I was at in different places, everybody was still kind of being soft with me. It's okay, we just want you to get better. But they've had enough now. So they came in to that family session with the guns blazing. And they had every right to. Because they tried to be codependent. They tried to be enablers. And let me tell you something. Until everybody cut me off, that's the only time I ever changed. And they just let me have it. And they had every right to say everything they said. But later on, one of their cousins, who was a street evangelist, similar to like a Jim Olsen, with a heart of gold, total lunatic, but a heart for Jesus, what this woman said forever changed the course of my life. She didn't say, "How could you?" She didn't say, "I can't believe that you've been missing for 3 months. Now you got all these legal problems. You spent all the family's money. You got 2 babies home." She said to her family that God must really have a plan for him. That the devil is really trying to kill him. And here we sit, all these years later, because just that one statement gave me hope. That one statement, and I want to say that to each and every one of you that is struggling with the desire to get high and continues to fail. You're not failing. That God has got a miraculous plan for you. That's why the devil won't let you go. Because if you ever get loose, you are going to be dangerous. If you ever get loose, you might start a program like Serenity Village. If you ever get loose, you might just support a program like this. We need people. I mean, it ain't about the leader. It's about the people that support the leader. The leader would be nothing without the people that support him or her. Or maybe you start a little group in your living room of a house that you never thought you could own with 4 people. And those 4 people touch 40 people. And those 40 people touch 400 people. And those 400 people touch 4,000. You never know. See, everybody wants to be Billy Graham. But what if you're the person that spoke into Billy Graham's life? You still played a part in all these lives. So I just thank God for everything he has done in my life. And tonight I want to talk to you, and I want to revisit what I taught on Sunday about the valley And it's the valleys of our lives. It's the stuff. It's the stuff that we get sober, we ride the pink cloud of a treatment high, and it always bursts. And that's truly really when the work starts. But if you have enough on deposit prior to that, I see a lot of men and women that are just on the high road, serving, grateful, smiling, and then they hit this rough spot. Not many make it through that. Then they go to fall down and go to jail or treatment. I was this person too. And then they get sober again, and they're good, and they're flying high, and then they hit the rough spot. The rough spot is inevitable. The question is, can you make it through it? So the definition of valley is an area of low land. And the key is that, when you do what I did and you get sober for the umpteenth time, every time I attempted sobriety again, I had that many more consequences to deal with. So I thought the fact that I actually didn't get high today, and it was a miracle, but then I had to begin to face this stuff. My consequences, my broken relationships, my debt, my legal consequences, my health consequences. So I had to look at these low areas. I couldn't pretend that they didn't exist. And it says between the hills or the mountains. A lot of times in life, guys, we're in between things. And because we're in between things, either we just left something and can't wait to get to something, but that's why we have to really appreciate the present, which is our gift. If you cannot be present and you're living a life, you'll be happy when or if this happens, or you're living in regret, living the woulda, coulda, shoulda life, you'll never be present. The key of victory is being present. And I love what Ezekiel 37 is talking about, because it reminds me of where I came from. And it says, when you got here, there was barely any life in you. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget it. I got Terry Roberts, who went through our program and still comes to the church, comes here how long have you been sober? 4.5 years. Let's give God the glory. See, there's so many stories in this sanctuary, and Terry's friend Linda invited her up here because Linda had been to the best of the best treatment centers in this country. Spent $100,000+ trying to get sober, and somehow ended up on our doorstep. How long have you been sober? 5.5 years. Let's give God the glory. But I remember when Terry got here, because she was barely alive, she had to go through DTs in her house in Iowa. She had to find a place for her pets to go because she had to leave everything just to live. And if you have that, it's amazing that we can remember. I can't remember. I'm amazed I remember that. That was years ago. But those things are what gives me hope. When I remember Terry's story or Linda's story on a bad day, it encouraged me that I can make it through my day. And what I've learned is that when I got here, ask Mike Shea. He was my roommate. And, Mike Shea's from northern Minnesota. And Mike Shea is a chronic alcoholic. And when I rolled into room 309 down at Teen Challenge, I weighed about $120. My teeth were falling out of my head because I'm a cocaine addict. And Mike Shea was freaked out. Well, Mike Shea told me he couldn't relate to an addict because he was an alcoholic. I said, well, tell me your story. Well, Mike Shea proceeded to tell me at a particular time that his father-in-law was dying in the hospital. He put a piece of gum on the end of a pencil to grab a morphine pill that had fallen down 2 feet. I said, Mike, you're an addict. We all can relate to one another, no matter what your addiction is, no matter what your affliction is. But we can't forget what it was like. And this particular passage really brings home to me what our calling is. It says, the hand of the Lord was on me. The hand of the Lord was on me in my addiction. That's the footprints in the sand. The hand of the Lord was on me. And in your recovery, you need the hand of the Lord on you. Because in your recovery, God saved you to serve. He saved you to help save other people's lives. It says, he brought me out by the Spirit of the Lord and set me in the middle of the valley, full of bones. When you're dealing with somebody that's trying to get sober, there's barely any life in them. It says, he led me back and forth among them and saw a great many bones in the floor of the valley, bones that were very dry. I remember what it's like to be very dry. It says, he asked me, son of man, can these bones live? Have you ever asked yourself, Am I going to be able to live? All the time I ask myself that. I mean, I never thought I'd be able to live without a benzo or an opiate. And I am today, thank God. But I mean, I look and family members look at us and say, I wonder if they're going to live. And it goes on to say, I said, Sovereign Lord, you alone know. See, God knew that you would live. God knows what he placed inside of you. God knows what it is that your life can look like. So why not make a decision to turn your will and life over to him, no matter how you understand him, because he knows you best. It goes on to say, then he said to me, prophesy to these bones and say, that's your purpose. That's my purpose. To speak life into dry areas of people's lives. To give hope to the hopeless. To give love to people that can't accept love. To watch somebody turn in that was a hopeless dope fiend and turn into a dopeless hope fiend. There's nothing. I met with countless employees of my company today, and I said, I don't care about growing the business. I don't care about the money. I care about making a difference in a person's life. A gentleman who I have great love and respect for, he's Native American. He's unbelievable. Actually, he's painted a lot of the exterior of this church. He brought his sister here, that's in the meth game at a deep level, and she just got out of treatment because he brought her to this church. My daughter Nikki met with her because we were out of town and gave this girl my daughter, of all people. And now she was in our office for an interview, and Jamie had interviewed her the other day. But I asked this brother today, I said, you know what? You know what I care about? I said, tell me one dream that you have for 2017. Let me help you with one dream. And he says, well, he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, you know, everybody wants more money. Everyone says, I mean, do you want to own a house? Do you want to take a trip? He goes, you know what I want to do? I want to go to my mom's gravesite. And the spirit just in my office today. I said, I'll go with you if you want me to. He goes, I've been wanting to go for 6 months, and this is that I'm at the age now when she passed, and it's hard for me to look at this. I said, you know what? We're going to fulfill that dream together. Because that's what makes this world go round. Not what it says on your business card, not what you got in your bank account, not how cute he or she is around your shoulder. It's about investing in somebody else's life. Kindness, the best definition I've heard of kindness, is reaching down into somebody else's life and bringing them up to where you are. So as we go into these areas where people are spiritually dry because of life or addiction, we need to speak life into them. And now it says, the sovereign Lord says to these bones, and I've experienced this, that's why I'm living today. I will make breath enter you. All of a sudden I had hope. You will come to life, and slowly but surely I've been coming to life, and I've watched thousands of people experience this as well. I will attach tendons to you and come upon you and cover you with skin. It's like all of a sudden you can move around again. I will put breath in you and you will come. But then you will know that I am God. See, we forget who did it. And that's why I said earlier tonight, you know, if somebody knew Nate back then and knows Nate now, they would have to start to believe that there is a God. And that's your testimony. That's your testimony. It says in Isaiah 41, God has begun to send water into your dry places. And it's so pertinent where you really look at this, where it says, and parched ground. I remember I was so sick from drugs and opiates and heroin and cocaine that I couldn't even talk. I remember that I was so addicted to alcohol that I needed it right when I woke up, and I was so shaky that I couldn't even get the glass to my lips, so I had to use a straw in the jug of vodka. I don't ever want to forget that. Because if you think that that's glamorous, and I used to, I don't know what was so attractive about that life that I would run back to it. But I did countless times. So when I was dry, God sent water and people to really help my parched areas of my life. And it says, you have to walk through the valley to get to the mountain. We have to walk through this stuff. That's what the 12 steps are all about. You cannot run from it, because at the end of the day, it's chasing you. So you might as well turn back around and walk right back into it. Because if you're honest with yourself, it ain't going nowhere until you deal with it. And it says in Psalm 23, 4 through 6, don't be afraid of your own shadow. A lot of the stuff that we process and can't deal with is not even real stuff. It's make-believe. We make it out to be more than it really is. That's why they teach us to write down the 4-step. Anybody who's ever done a 4-step, all that stuff is contained within your mind, body, soul, and spirit. But when you put it on paper, you look at it for what it really is. It ain't that powerful. It ain't that serious. And it shouldn't take you out like it does. And what it says here is so profound. It says, yea, though I walk through the valley. That means in your recovery that you can't get stuck. I don't like it when I hear, I've been working on the 4-step for 6 months. No, you haven't been working on it for 6 months. You just haven't worked it. Because a 4-step should really take 1 or 2 days at best. And you're not supposed to, where people get stuck, it's like, well, how am I supposed to remember anything? Well, you don't have to. Write down what you do remember. Simple. Simple program, they say, for complicated people. So what this means is that we have to keep moving. We have to keep walking no matter what. No matter what, you got to keep moving forward. It says the shadow of death. Let me tell you something about the shadow of death. The pain that I used to feel, the feelings that I couldn't process, the stuff that I didn't understand made me feel like I was dying. But it's those shadows, the shadows that follow you from your past. Those shadows bleed into your present and pollute your future. Those shadows bleed into your present and pollute your future. They're not even about what's happening now, but they're shadows, and they follow you wherever you go. Anything you've ever done, anything you've ever felt. And that's why you have to continue to walk through the valley, because eventually that stuff is going to fall off of you. But if you're standing still, it's easy to continue to just be there. I mean, as a little kid, I used to run around and thinking I could outwit my shadow. But it was always there. So I might as well accept the fact that there's a shadow, and that's everything that has happened to me up until this point. It says, I will fear no evil, that you are with me. Beyond having God with you, you have the we of the program with you, if you choose to really utilize the love that's in this room. So yeah, fear is false evidence appearing real, forget everything and run, or face everything and recover. God is love, and love casts out all fear. So yeah, your fear's going to show up, but fear shouldn't be a factor. If you identify your fears in your 4-step and confess them in your 5th, fear will not be a factor. And fear is not always bad. I'm afraid to get high. That's a healthy fear. I'm afraid of a hot stove. If I didn't have fear, I'd touch the hot stove. If I didn't have fear, I'd smoke crack. Fear is not always bad. It comes in different forms. It says, your rod and your staff comfort me. Now, prime example, Nate had to use the rod and the staff to correct him. Not literally. And some of us aren't even over that yet, when it was literally a rod and a staff that was correcting us as kids. And that's painful. But we have to let that stuff go. And if we don't let it go, we'll do the very same thing to ourselves and to our children. But Nate walked through the valley, and he was able to hear the correction, and that correction actually gave him protection from who? Himself. Do you know that you need to be protected from yourself? That's why they lock us up. See, you got to get to know yourself so you can see yourself coming. Each and every one of us, including me, has a side of us that is just stanky all the way through. Freddie ain't dead. Whoever you feed will live. You feed Freddie, he's going to live. If you feed the spirit will always override the flesh. Now it says, you prepare a table before me in the presence. Not everybody's going to be your fan. Not everybody's going to be excited about the new you. The higher you go, the more people will hate you because it's envy and jealousy. You will have people that are hoping for your demise. I do. They're here right now. Hoping I slip up. But I used to be so full of fear that I'd go in front of the judge, say to my wife at the time, say to my children, they said, well, you better watch out. And I said, well, I'll prove you wrong. But I always proved them right. I'm not going out like a punk anymore today. Just today, just like Steve said to Nate. Don't forget, all you got is today. And you got to realize that you're going to have haters. You're going to have to realize that, I didn't care if I had haters when I was selling crack. Why should I put so much substance into people? Not everybody's going to like me. Not everybody's going to like you. The key is that you learn to like you. And if you learn to like you, it won't matter if they like you. And if you learn to love you, God will send people to love you. And it's so important. Now check this out. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Now, it's not if you're going to go through the valley. I'm in the valley right now. It's when you will go in the valley. And the key is this, that if you are going to your meetings, if you are doing your morning meditations, if you are rolling out of bed onto your knees, if you are doing the steps, if you are doing it, your cup will overflow in the valley, in the dry place, and your cup is already full, right? But your cup will overflow with water in the valley. But if your cup is empty, what are you going to draw from in your time of need? What are you going to pull from when life ain't fair? Where are you going to go when you have a desire or a thought to smoke, crack, do heroin, drink, go to the casino, act out with pornography? If your cup is dry in the valley, you're going, you probably are there now. But if you ain't got something during the week filling this up, in your time of need, baby, you'll go to grab something that ain't there. And that's why we have to go to meetings. That's why we have to talk to our sponsor. And if you really are working a program, your sponsor will say what Steve Skoranek said about Nate, that he feels that Nate is actually, because sponsees do more for the sponsor than the sponsor does for the sponsee. Let's give God the glory. It says, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. The key is, if you don't deal with the shadow, goodness and mercy will never get to you. If you know the Bible in Romans 8:28, I said this on Sunday, it's truly what it means that God will work everything together for good. He worked my crack addiction together for the good. He worked my criminal activity together for the good. He worked my manipulation together for the good. He worked all my mistakes together for the good. That's why this church exists. That's why this program exists. That's why I'm able to relate to anybody. That's why we can do the things we do, because we know what it feels like to lose. But I didn't know what it felt like to win. Somebody had to teach me. Somebody had to teach me what it is. So God wants to, and then look at that all by itself, that statement. Surely goodness and mercy will follow you all the days of your life. I mean, did you get what was coming to you? You got here, you wanted to get sober, and this is full of mercy and goodness. It's a true statement. It may not be exactly what you want it to look like. You might have consequences that you don't want to deal with, but at the end of the day, you're still breathing. Check out what the next one says in Ezekiel. Walk through your pain to get to your purpose. Your greatest pain will be your greatest purpose. But it says the fugitives who escape to flee from the mud. See, a lot of us still think we're fugitives, and some of us maybe are. And that's okay too. I would strongly suggest go turn yourself in, because it's going to happen. But we act as if we're fugitives, and we don't want to walk through the valley. We want to run out of it. We get sober, and we want to run away from all of our consequences. We want to run away from all the stuff. We want to redefine our lives, and we forget that that shadow is there. And you can have the best job in the world, the best woman in the world, and a nice car to boot, and if that shadow is still there, you ain't got nothing but that shadow. Quit being a fugitive. Quit running from your pain. Run into your pain. I had a profound woman that I respect and love, and in my group on Friday, and I don't mean to put people out so I don't say names, but she said I could be a public speaker on insecurity. I said, that's awesome. But your mind tells you that you're failing. No, you're not. What if you are a complete disaster? What's wrong with that? At least you know what you are. I could fall apart at any given moment. That's why Bishop T.D. Jakes tells us, never be arrogant, because all it takes is one decision to ruin everything. We're one decision away from mass destruction. So quit being a fugitive. Walk. Don't run through the valley. I'm going to run until I get 90 days, and I'm going to do what I want to do. No. You better walk one day at a time for the rest of your life. And don't look at, oh, that just sucks. No, it doesn't. You forgot the valley of the dry bones. That sucked. Pardon my language. We can't forget those days. Sarah sent me something today on Facebook. I saw on her thing that the month after her brother died, correct? This Sunday, we will be launching the sound studio in memory of her brother that died of an overdose. Tell me God isn't good. He's with us right now, right here tonight. I'm not going to get into something really freaky that happened. I'm telling you something. Your friends who have died are counting on you to stay sober. They're counting on you to help people like them that couldn't get it. And my point is this, that we forget about these things and we want to run from them. And a lot of times, guys, we put ourselves in the valley. That's why it says this. Psalm 104, walk through your test to get to your testimony. You have to walk through your test, and God will always bring you back to the same test. If he wants you here, you can leave here, but he's going to bring you back here. And we have to walk through the test to get our testimony. And it says the place that he assigned. I mean, if you don't believe that God has assigned you here, you won't do well here. If you don't look at this as a privilege, it'll be a problem, and you'll be constantly complaining of other things. Numbers 9:13. Walk through your pruning to get to the fruit. We have to be pruned so we can grow. You can't just get sober and have all this stuff stuck to you and think you're going to grow. I love it. Jim Swanson, he's a phenomenal gardener. But if Jim Swanson didn't prune the dead leaves off the flowers wouldn't grow. So the valley allows us to be pruned. And while you're being pruned, you'll pick up fruit. Check out what it says. Things need to be cut off of us. But in the valley, you'll pick up a cluster of grapes, and check this out. 2 of them carried. The 2 of them carrying the fruit out of the valley, the peace, the patience, the kindness, the joy. It takes 2. That's the we of the program. You're not going to be able to do this in your own strength. Questions to ask yourself while walking through the valley. Genesis 26. Are you settling for less than God's best? Are you settling for less than God's best? It says, so Isaac moved away. See, if you never leave, you don't have to come back. Jeff, stand up, Jeff. Caleb, stand up. Will, stand up. Stace, stand up. Keith, stand up. Terry, stand up. Linda, stand up. They haven't lived in our houses for years, but they never left. That's why they don't have to come back. Let's give God the glory. So we always want to run from this stuff in ourselves, and we settle for stuff that isn't God's best. Now, this man in the front row is a man that I would literally die for. And I know his heart. But I had to check him about a month ago in group. And you gotta have enough humility to know. And somebody, I told you the story, what they said to me. I said, well, I can't go into treatment. What about my company? I can't go to treatment. What about my house? I can't. And the guy says, he goes, you say you got these things? The only thing you've got is a crack habit. You ain't got no house, even though you own one. You ain't got no job because you don't show up. But about a month ago, I found out how much he loved me. And I said in group, and I watched him twitch but I watched him take my statement like a man. What I said, not to him directly, but to the group, and he heard me, and maybe it was direct. I said, when you moved to LA, did it look like we suffered? Did it look like Serenity Village suffered? Right? That was pretty humbling to hear that, didn't it? But it's the truth. God doesn't need you. You need him. This place doesn't need you. You need it. And that's why the devil tries to take you out of here. And only a real man can hear what was said that night without taking offense. Because this thing, everybody's lives, guys, are going to go on regardless of what we do. My ex-father-in-law said to me, he goes, you know, I've never seen anybody, because when I'm on, but I could never stay on. He goes, I've never seen so many mountaintops when you're sober. But when you go down, I've never seen lows like your lows. And he goes, you know what, Jeff? When you go out and get high and my daughter calls me and says she doesn't know where you are, I still got to go to work in the morning. No matter what you do, people will continue to live their lives. So what? You know what? If somebody saves your life, you might as well live it. Not might as well, you better live it. If somebody saves your life, you better live it. So those are the questions. Are you settling less for God's best? Numbers, it says, have you moved on? A lot of times God will take you in the valley and you thought you moved on from something. You thought you were over it. And then you go through the valley and come to find you ain't over it. You stuffed it. You didn't process it. I didn't process it. And God will bring you back to it to make sure that you can get free from it. But because we're fugitives and we run out of the valley, we never deal with the stuff. And wherever we go, there we are. And it also says now in Judges, are you trying to fill a void that only God can fill? We feel vulnerable in the valley, so we look for people to affirmation. We look for love in all the wrong places. 2 Samuel, are you looking for the similarities or the differences? The Philistines spread out. We got to stay together. 2 Chronicles, are you grateful for your recovery? I mean, are you grateful to be above ground and out of prison? Are you grateful in spite of all your consequences? Are you grateful that you didn't get high today? And maybe you did get high today. But are you at least grateful that you showed up here tonight? That takes a lot of courage. I know what it's like to come to meetings high. I know what it's like to have dope in my sock. I know what it's like to have dope in my trunk. I know what it's like to go to a meeting. You know what? You know what else? You know what else I used to do? To appease my wife at the time, I go to church with her on Sunday, and you're going to, I go in the bathroom during the church service and snort cocaine. Yeah. And God still loved me. And I'm a pastor. So I don't know what you've done. And that was disrespecting God. But I'm going to tell you the truth. And it's going to be all over YouTube now. One thing I'm going to tell you is this. Always be honest. And who cares what they do with your business? What they do with your business is none of your business. Because when they take what you said and they put their little spin on it, because of their own lack of courage and condemnation. Did you hear about Pastor Jeff? They put a little twist and a little turn and a little manipulation and a lie on top of what I actually said. I'm free. You're a captive. I don't care what you do with the information I told you. I mean, you think I got a memory of 17 years ago of snorting cocaine in a bathroom at a church in Minneapolis? I don't remember that, but God brought it to my memory, so I have a responsibility to God to tell you what he just brought to my mind. Well, I better not tell him that. I'm going to tell you everything, because my freedom is important to me. And beyond my freedom being important to me, my freedom is pretty important to a lot of people. So it ain't about me. So we gotta be honest. We gotta thank God. So what are your next steps? It says in Joel 3:14, it's time to decide. I mean, you've got to really look at who God is. dope fiend like me snorting cocaine in his church, and I'm still a pastor. You want to know about forgiveness? I mean, how dare you? Well, yeah, how dare me? That's foolishness. But God ain't. God keeps no records of wrongs. Yeah, I have to repent, I have. But the thing is that tonight you have to make a decision. It says, 1 Samuel 30:10, is walking through all this too much for you? It says 200 of them were too exhausted to cross the valley. Oh, these meetings. Oh, another meeting tonight. I worked all day. What time do we have to be there? Show up late, leave early. Did you do that in the dope house? You show up late at the bar and left early? No, you didn't. You never left. Nor did I. So you have to stick with it. 200 quit, 400 continued, and you look at why the 400 continued. Look at the word David. They had a leader. They had a sponsor. They had a pastor that was their example never to quit. And typically whoever God has got over you, they're doing a lot more than you are, so it gives you hope that you can do at least some of what they're asking you. Joshua 8:13, God will send you into other people's lives to assist. The greatest privilege I've ever had as a human being is to go into somebody else's valley and feel what they're feeling on a 12-step call. To talk to a teenager or somebody under 10 years old and tell them that their dad or mom's going to be okay. They really do love you. I know it doesn't make sense that they're missing and they're in jail because they were driving drunk, but it doesn't mean that they don't love you. To me, that's a privilege. And you're the very same people that I do that for children are here tonight. And now I got their parents under the sound of my voice, so I'm going to take advantage, like I said earlier. I'm going to tell you the truth because it's not just about you. The decisions we make affect a lot of people. And God will send you into the valley of somebody else's life. And it says in Luke 3:5, God will level your path for your pace to be steady. Every valley will be filled in. Every mountain, hill will be made low. The crooked roads, I remember those crooked roads, shall become straight. The rough ways smooth. You know what? I thank God I'm not walking a crooked road. I thank God that what I thought was happiness is not happiness. Tonight I know joy, and it's that joy that gives me strength. I love you. God bless you.